has been brought up that it's
I've turned the air down, but it's a full house.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners for July 18th, 2017. I invite you to stand with me if you choose while we offer an invocation, and afterwards Commissioner Nash will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we thank you for another wonderful day in our community and for the wisdom that you give us in living our lives. We pray that you'll add to that as we consider the items before us this evening, and we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yeah.
Please face the flag. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Denning is absent. Commissioner Nash?
Here.
Commissioner Perigin?
here.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Have any awards and recognitions tonight, sir? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty proud tonight to announce that the City of Bowling Green was ranked second of small cities in America for what is known as Energy Star certified buildings. This is for 2017. It's been awarded by the EPA, and we rank second, and that's because we have 27 certified buildings that has reduced air emissions. I don't know the exact calculus, but it ranked high enough to be second in the nation. So that's something we should be very proud of. I want to thank our Public Works Department, especially Anthony Armour, who does a lot of this monitoring for us.
Congratulations.
That's it.
From the Commission. Do you have any comments tonight, sir?
Yes, I do. As the Commission will remember, we received a complaint from a citizen concerning an incident that occurred at their home involving our police department and Stacy and Michael Hutchinson. As we committed to, with your will, we have done an investigation, and we're here tonight to have Kevin Wiles report out our findings of the incident. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Febo, Mayor, Commissioners. Wanted to just spend a few minutes and go over some of the details from the administrative review that I conducted. I was assigned this back in April and I spent several weeks investigating the facts and talking to officers. What I would like to go over are some of the key findings and then some of the recommendations that we are proposing. When this complaint came in initially, it was a fraud complaint involving a local bank. Initially, the complainant presumed, I think based on some checks they had received, that it was going to be a cost of about $75,000 loss to them. That was the initial report we got. So that got the preliminary investigation going. At the time, they had about a $5,000 loss, but that is what led to BGPD responding to that bank and beginning the investigation. Because of that dollar amount, it got a little more attention maybe than a case with a smaller amount of money. That's a rather large, unusual amount of money involved. This was subsequently assigned to a detective, Jason Franks, who began the investigation. There was, I guess, a few factors that are important to this case that I do want to mention. Normally, a fraud case, they're prioritized like all of our cases are, and a fraud case would be prioritized at a lower level than a crime against a person or an assault or something of that nature. So as Jason received this investigation, he had a caseload that had was relatively low at that particular moment. This was last summer. So he was able to immediately give this a lot of attention, and it became his top priority. He was able to, through his investigation, determine there were a number of potential suspects, and there were some multiple residences potentially involved in this. And what I have concluded from looking at the facts is that, in my opinion, this led to a little bit of a confirmation bias on his part, where things that potentially would individually maybe be drawn to a different conclusion as part of an overall framework, he was led to maybe adding up points that didn't necessarily add up. And that's what, in my opinion, some of the, for this, when he had potentially multiple people involved in multiple locations, the fact that he had maybe names that he couldn't necessarily connect otherwise became potentially involved. And I think that is important to mention as part of the mindset maybe that led to us going to the residents on Red Pond. As part of this investigation, there were 3 residences that were of interest. One of those was the residence on Red Pond that generated the complaint. When the detective was able to determine the ownership of that residence, and those names were not anywhere else in the criminal investigation at that point, that should have, in my opinion, been a point where he could have spent more time determining whether or not they were or were not involved. And so that was, in my opinion, a mistake. And I guess that was where the primary confirmation bias, in my opinion, came in, that because he had the potential for multiple suspects, and as officers we know that occasionally we'll have individuals that we didn't initially know were involved in a crime that later through the case investigation are determined to be. I think that became primary in his mind, that potentially, even though these homeowners, he couldn't connect to the crime, he just hadn't figured out how yet. So he was unable to adequately determine their involvement, and I think rather than spending a little more time to determine the level of involvement, it was included in the remainder of the case, and that assumption that they were involved was a mistake. So the investigation was part of this. There were also problems with the service of the warrant, and there was, in my opinion, a lack of leadership at that residence on the particular day that the warrant was executed. There are some recommendations that I want to list to the Commission tonight. 4 key points that I think will prevent this from happening in the future. In the future, unless there are exigent circumstances involved, anytime we have a detective or an officer that wants to do an incursion into a residence or a dwelling, that's going to require supervisory review of the pertinent facts before they seek a search warrant. In addition, we would like to use a risk assessment matrix similar to how we use with our critical response team to help a supervisor gauge the facts. And the matrix for the critical response team is a point system where, based on the facts of the case, that would then lead to levels of the appropriate response. Also, unless exigent circumstances exist, all of these incursions will require a written operations plan that has been approved by assistant chief or higher. So that would be a major level division commander approval required. Also, anytime we have a coordinated incursion, the assistant chief or higher rank will be required to be on scene. So those 4 key points we believe would prevent this from happening again. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
I'd just like to tell Kevin that this is one of the most thorough reports I've ever looked at, and I appreciate your hard work on this.
Make sure I understand. On a risk assessment matrix, can you give us some examples? I know we don't want to reveal too much about tactics, but can you give me an example of something that would be considered there that would cause it to rise to the level? Yes, sir. What we'll be looking at, and that's going to be the next phase for
for this process is coming up with the actual matrix and the operational plan template that a detective or an officer could fill in and do drop-down menus, so it's going to be set. But we're looking for the matrix things like, is this a search warrant for a property crime or a crime against an individual? Are there known weapons involved? Is there drug involvement? Things that would be easily discernible when you sit down and review the facts of the case. But if we attach a point total to that, it helps a supervisor assess, is this something that we need to have a different option potentially, or it also can help us determine the mode of the service. There are some options that we have. Going into a house in a dynamic mode is really the last option. It shouldn't be the first thing that we do. There's just so much danger for the people inside as well as the officers, and it has to be worthy of that level of risk. So it is designed, the matrix would be designed to help us assess exactly what have we got, what kind of crime, and then how is it best served to protect the officers and the public.
Comments or questions?
They may answer themselves, but if they do, I want you to direct me that they do. Are the recommendations realistic in a reasonable time frame?
They are, yes, sir. And the reason I say that is we already have a risk assessment matrix that the critical response team uses. So if in the middle of the night an officer has an incident, they're going to talk to their supervisor, and the supervisor is going to get the matrix, which is it's electronic or it's paper, however and typically they have it in the car and the computer, but they can run down the matrix, and that's very, very common for us already as supervisors. When I was a patrol commander, if I had a call from a captain saying, we think we got a search warrant or an incident that would need the critical response team, my first question is, what are the point totals on the matrix? And that helps because it's objective. There's no, I guess it's points. So if we're over the point threshold, then it becomes, okay, give me the details of what you got. And so we would apply the same logic to search warrants that are going into homes. There's going to be certain point level that if it is beyond the point threshold, then it's deemed worthy to proceed. Now, and this is just our side of this. We would still have to go to the Commonwealth, and they would have their own objective look at, is this worthy of issuing a search warrant?
Thank you.
Yes,
and the second question is, who determines the exigent circumstances? Is that a supervisor? Is that the discretion of the officer?
In this, currently it's going to be the supervisor. So in our current circumstance, it's not going to change much other than the division commander is going to be the one who is ultimately held responsible to either prove or say we don't have enough time. It should be the very, very rare exception that an exigent circumstance would preclude us getting a search warrant. It's just it's not to the point where we can say it's never gonna happen, but it should be the very, very rare exception.
I just want to, and I know everybody does, but I want to put it on the record that it's terribly unfortunate what happened. The second part of that is, and I believe that we owe the individuals an apology, but the second part is that how do we prevent it from happening in the future, but at the same time, and excuse the pun, not handcuff the police in their ability to do the job of protecting us in a quick fashion. If these recommendations are able to be done in a reasonable time frame, you believe in a real life situation, then I hope they'll do both of those things.
I agree, and I think that they will. I don't think that there is anything here that's going to be beyond the capabilities of a supervisor or a detective. We're gonna make forms. Everything is really easy to create forms that have fill in the blanks and drop down menus, and there's actually some precedent for this from other agencies, that we don't have to necessarily come up with this from scratch. We'll adopt good ideas and make it our own, and it'll be not something they're having to sit and try to create from, what goes in an operational plan. There'll be blocks and drop-down menus and fill in the blank that'll help guide them along.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate the time and effort that you took to put this together, and I know it's sometimes uncomfortable to look at your own processes to determine whether or not we're correct and apply those correctly. I think you have in this case, and I appreciate that effort. And although we don't want to disparage those who work very hard to keep this community safe, the fact that when we get information like this and we review it, we want the public to know that we listen to what they have to say, and the mistakes that we make, we'll make every effort to correct them. And on behalf of the City of Bowling Green, to the Hutchinson family, who have been absolutely gracious throughout this entire process, on behalf of the City of Bowling Green and the Police Department, I offer my apologies, and hope that it will never happen again to anyone else, and I appreciate their bringing it to our attention. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, Colonel. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
One more item. Under city manager comments, there'll be a need for executive session. Kate will read the reason.
Pursuant to KRS 621810-1C for discussions on proposed litigation on behalf of the city.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Williams. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on June 20th, 2017.
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Nash, second by Williams. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Second reading of ordinance BG 2017-26.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 3 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Williams. It's the second reading. Do you have any further comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Ordinance, second reading of ordinance BG 2017-27.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing 0.2296 acre from RM3 multifamily residential to RM4 multifamily residential located at 1318 Nutwood Street, presently owned by Brian Todd Utley.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Perigin. This is a second reading of a ordinance that came out of Planning and Zoning with a tie vote, as I recall. Is that correct, Ben? Yes. 4-4. So we were conducting information based on the record presented by Planning and Zoning. At that time, we asked Mr. Peterson several questions, and as I recall, no one from the citizenry came to speak, so they wouldn't be allowed to at this session. But is there any other comments or questions that anyone would like to make with regard to this? I believe it's our call to make or not make this one.
I guess my comment on this one is as it relates to the Cherry Way, that kind of what brought this to where it is to a tie vote was there was a very similar situation on Cherry Way that was voted no. But it was a different developer, and I guess I just have a real hard time with saying no in one instance, and because there was some opposition there, and then if the neighborhood didn't come out, why we just, it just doesn't. It seems like we should be consistent. If it's no here, then it should be no here if it's the same, basically. So that's just my comment.
Comments or questions? Forgot to ask the developer, did they make any comments that night, Ben? Ben, the applicant make any comments that night, as I recall? Okay. Anything else? Yes, sir? Okay, you're welcome to come. And although we wouldn't be able to accept any additional testimony beyond what was listed in the minutes of the meeting. Is there anything that you'd like to summarize with regard to that presentation?
Oh, there were just some questions from Mr. Denning on, I guess there was multiple lots inside my lot that I was unaware of. I was only familiar with the yellow box presented. So I've lived there for about 10 years, and I've shared that driveway. I know that was a concern of parking, and I've lived next to a duplex for 10 years with zero, issues. You made a comment of what's the biggest difference between Cherry and this one. That was a 3-bedroom project. Mine's a 2-bedroom project, hoping to not have parking constraints. That's really it.
I don't think we had details.
Okay, I think you had asked I just knew the Cherry Street project. I was here for the opposition, and I knew that they were aware of what was trying to go there, and that was a 3-bedroom. Mine was a 2-bedroom. That was all I was going to share.
We did have discussion about the property within that yellow box. Are there 4 small lots behind you that extend out to 14th, or are they landlocked?
I was never aware that those were partial. I guess they ran lots at some point off 14th perpendicular to Nutwood. I've lived at Nutwood. Only know that when I bought the lot, I bought from Nutwood to the alley. I wasn't aware until that day that there was little lots inside of there. I've never had any issues. My neighbor never had issues. I didn't know that they were there, or what it means or doesn't mean. I guess it was lotted and deeded at some point.
Okay. They just
I don't have any.
don't know the answer to that, how to deal with that. So, go ahead.
So your plan is to build two-bedroom, and so 2-bedroom, but is it your plan to do something like college suites where there's a common?
Ma'am, I would be residing in one, renting the upstairs, and then the one existing where I currently live now would just have two-bedroom tenants in that property with
A
parking.
total of 2 duplexes on the
Yes, ma'am.
property.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this information made public at the planning and zoning meeting?
I was there. I don't know.
Minutes now to try to figure it out.
In there, I've read it.
I was doing that.
The application is for 4 units total, so it'd be 2 units and 2 units. So it'd be 2 buildings, if you will, 2 units in each building, so it'd be total of 4 units, so 2 duplexes is what the application was for.
Questions or comments? All right, please call the roll.
Nash,
No.
Perigin,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes. I'd probably put it back on the agenda again, because we have no decision at this point, or it doesn't pass.
What we may want to suggest doing is now going ahead and adding to the agenda the one denying it, and go ahead and doing a first reading of that one tonight. Maybe the next meeting we'll have 5 people here, so we can break some kind of tie, potentially, hopefully. Saying, voting this one down, in reality, we're supposed to have some kind of a basis for voting it down. This one effectively votes it down with no basis. So that's why I would suggest go ahead and maybe put it on the agenda tonight. If you want to do it at the end, it'll be fine. But the ordinance denying the rezoning based upon the findings set out in that ordinance that we did in preparation for tonight.
With regard to that recommendation and the pre-prepared ordinance design denying the rezoning, I'll make the motion to add that to the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by me, second by Perigin, and this vote is to add it to the agenda, so yes is to add it to the agenda. Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes. All right, so now we will vote on denying this rezoning under ordinance BG 2017-35.
ordinance denying rezoning of real estate, ordinance denying rezoning of tracts of land containing 0.2296 acre from RM3 multifamily residential to RM4 multifamily residential located at 1318 Nutwood Street, presently owned by Brian Todd Utley.
So moved.
I suggest you may want to make your motion based upon the findings set out in that ordinance.
As stated, yes, sir. Yeah, I don't have to repeat what you said, do I?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I shouldn't have to repeat what you said.
No, you shouldn't have to repeat it.
You got that? All right. So, motion by Perigin, second by
Nash.
Nash. All right, this time, a yes vote is a denial. Oh, I'm sorry, that's correct. No, I moved to add it to the agenda.
Got it.
She moved to,
Second. Sorry for the confusion.
got that straight. Perigin is moving, Nash is seconding to deny this particular one.
I didn't quite hear those motions, so I'm going based off of what you said, so yes.
And a yes vote means that you're denying the rezoning. Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Wilkerson.
Again,
On
this
that
is first
basis,
reading.
we'll
This
put
will
it
be
on the
back.
agenda when we have 5 votes up here to break that tie next time. All right, thank you. All right, Municipal Order 2017-122.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Nicole R. Louie to the position of Housing Recertification Specialist in the Neighborhood and Community Services Department.
So moved.
Second.
By Williams, second by Nash. Febo.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a vacancy in this position. We advertised publicly. We had 138 people voice interest in serving in this position. We had the Personnel Department forward 34 applicants. 8 were interviewed, and from the distillation, we're here to recommend Nicole Louie. She has 7 years' experience in case management and customer service. Michael Grubbs tells me that Nicole is here.
Congratulations, thank you for being here. I look forward to working with you. All right. You want to applaud? Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-123.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointments of Maritza L. Arnett, Kristen L. Johnson, Bobby D. Lee, and Jeffrey B. Woosley to the position of Communications Dispatcher in the Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
Commission is reminded, communication dispatcher is probably the most difficult position to attract and to maintain and to fill. We're blessed tonight to have 4 quality applicants who want to serve the city in this role. I'm told by Mike that all 4 candidates are here, and we recommend their appointment.
Are they here this evening?
1, 2, 3, 4.
All 4 of you are here. Congratulations to each of you. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Look forward to your work as well, and for those that we just hired, please feel free to slip out if you've got other duties to take care of at home. So. Municipal Order 2017-124.
Municipal order authorizing renewal of bid number 2016-55 for structural firefighting turnout gear for the fire department from 911 Fleet and Fire Equipment of Florence, Kentucky in the amount of $207,200.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Nash. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. We're here tonight to ask you to allow us to purchase 80 more sets of bunker or turnout gear. There's a renewed understanding that contaminated turnout gear could aid and maybe advance cancer within our ranks. So by having extra turnout gear after a fire is completed and the men and ladies come back to the station, we're able to change into a brand new turnout gear. So we need to buy extra ones. We want to use the same contract we had last year. It's about $2,500 a set. Dustin Rockroar is here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash.
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-125.
Municipal order authorizing and approving a 5-year contract with Target Solutions Incorporated of San Diego, California for a fire training records management system for the fire department in the total amount of $44,394,394.87.
So moved.
By Perigin, second by Nash. Mr. DeFebo.
Critical to all firefighting is the need to be constantly trained in firefighting skills. We are asking you tonight to allow us to continue a 5-year contract with Target Solutions that provides individualized touch for all our officers, allows them to receive some of their training modules online, and also keeps track of the requisite modules they need. Again, this is a continuation of an existing 5-year contract that provides not only the storage and data about each individual, as well as the actual training modules. Dustin is here again if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Municipal Order 2017-126.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2017-70 for golf sports turf spray units from Kenny Corporation of Indianapolis, Indiana, in the amount of $115,664.
So moved.
Second?
Perigin, second by Nash. Mr. DeFebo.
In our Park and Rec department, particularly in the golf division, we apply a lot of chemicals to the grounds and a lot of insecticides. In order to do that, we have to outfit our staff in what is known as PPE, personal protective equipment. We're here tonight as kind of an experiment. This is recommended by Dave Weisbrot from our safety department, who is recommending that we go with self-contained spray units that have a mat. It's totally enclosed, the workers, as well as providing a air-conditioned environment to stop the risks of our staff from the insecticides. We wholeheartedly recommend that we do this, and I think Brent Belcher is here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-127.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2017-67 for Panasonic Security Project from JBK Network Consulting Limited of Bowling Green, Kentucky, in the amount of $158,176.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Perigin. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. As the commission is reminded, we have approximately 300 cameras within the city that we have on our property as well as in the community. We developed a 2-year plan to replace those existing 300 over a 2-year period. We're in the second year of that, as well as to add new cameras in various parks that are going to be expanded. If you have any questions, Lynn Hartley is here.
Comments or questions?
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-128.
Municipal order approving a contract through cooperative purchase with Rico USA Incorporated of Houston, Texas, under the Kentucky State Pricing Contract for the purchase of Rico copiers, including a service agreement in the amount of $74,324.86.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Williams.
The copier is becoming probably one of the more critical workplace items that we need. Again, this is the second year of a 2-year plan to replace in our copiers throughout the city. In your packet is the list of where these 11 new copiers will go. There's also a 4-year maintenance contract that goes along with the price. Lynn Hartley is here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-129.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting negotiations after sealed bidding for bid number 2017-73 for court refinishing from Conrad Floors Incorporated of Smiths Grove, Kentucky, in the amount of $42,400.
Second by
Second.
We're here to ask your approval to allow us to hire Conrad Floors under a negotiated bid to refinish some of the courts located at Moxley and Coomer Little. We recommend your approval. It's something that needs to be done. Mr. Belcher is here if you have any questions.
Questions? Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-130.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting bid number 2017-65 for Nutwood Street drainage improvements from Scott and Ritter Incorporated of Bowling Green, Kentucky in the amount of $465,908.
Moved.
Perigin.
Thank you, Mayor. Our two highest priorities in the city, or top three, are paving, stormwater, and sidewalks. We're here tonight to ask you to allocate money to allow us to improve 1,100 feet of sidewalk and drainage and curb and gutters along Nutwood between Broadway and 14th Street. This helps, again, to accomplish two of our top priorities. Mr. Meredith is here if you have any questions.
Comment is, I understand this is not just a gutter restoration. This is drop boxes, piping, dry well, all that sort of thing.
It's a combination of trying to get, as you know, for years, there's been a lot of water that heads basically from Broadway down Nutwood toward 13th and 14th and ends up in the Glendale system for stormwater. And this is a combination which we talked about. There are some dangerous inlets. There's some water that's actually going into some backyards along Nutwood that we hope this, and we're quite sure that this project will take care of those drainage issues and stormwater issues.
Comments or questions? Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-131.
Municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement with Bowling Green International Festival Incorporated to lease Circus Square Park and designated streets for September 29th and 30th, 2017, and further waiving the normal rental fees for the rental of Circus Square Park for this event.
So moved.
Perigin, second by Nash.
One of our signature celebration in this community is the International Festival. We're here tonight being asked by the International Committee to waive the fees involved with the rental of Circus Square Park. Historically, we've done this, and we recommend that you again approve that. This year's International Fest will be on September 29th and 30th.
Questions? Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-132.
Municipal order adopting the 2016 Barren River Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan for the city of Bowling Green, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
By Perigin, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
I'm going to ask Brent Shoulders to come forward to explain what this is. It's pretty simple, but it's also significant. I would ask Brent to come up. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo, Mayor and Commissioners. This is not a plan that I wrote, nor have I ever written. But I did write the grant for the previous plan that this one is replacing several years ago before I came to the city. And what the hazard mitigation plan is, it's a regional plan, so it covers all 10 counties that are located within our area development district. And it really looks at the threats from natural hazards. So it has an assessment based on the level of threat from tornadoes, winter storms, severe flooding, those types of things. And why it's important for us as a community to adopt this, and this is going to be adopted by every city and county within the Brad area, so you're talking about 17 cities, 10 counties, is it opens us up for funding from FEMA. So we have to be covered under one of these plans. We don't write it. The Area Development District writes it on behalf of the entire region, and then is it adopted locally at each jurisdiction. So I have not reviewed the plan, but I can just kind of tell you how the plan works and what it's useful for. If you have any questions, I'll try to entertain those.
Questions? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Order 2017-133.
Municipal order accepting and adopting the 2017 Bowling Green Fire Department Policy and Procedures Manual.
Second.
Considering that the police and fire department are cadre organizations and operate under what's known as SOPs or standard operating procedures, those need to be updated every so often. We're here tonight to approve the revised SOPs for the fire department. Last time this was done was in 2004. I've been working with Jason to make sure these are done in the proper way, because we're also doing other changes that could impact this later. Mr. Rockroar is here if you have any questions about the procedure manual.
Comments or questions? 167 pages, is that right? Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Ash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-134.
Municipal order accepting and approving revisions to the computer ethics and computer procedures and ethics policy.
Moved.
Second.
Ash, second by Perigin. Mr. Fennell.
Again, with the rest of the city, we also have standard operating procedures for the use of certain tools. We're here tonight to ask you to approve procedural changes and ethics policy for use of computers. I thought it'd be important for Lynn Hartley to briefly give you an overview of those changes. Lynn?
Hartley.
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Briefly, the original policy was developed in 1994. There have been quite a number of changes and amendments over the time, as you can imagine, with technology changes. Just as an example, in 1994, there was no wireless that we had as a city. Social media was, you'd get a deer in the headlights look if you mentioned that. So a lot of things have changed. So several things that we were focused on. One was just to look at the overall policy for any terminology changes that were outdated and need to be corrected. Part of it, too, was over time, some things had appeared in different places and kind of got unstructured. We had some things that were actually in the admin manual. Just as a point of reference, the computer procedures policy is considered part of the admin manual, but part of this was just to try to consolidate things in one area again. We also had a big focus on the electronic media policy. Formerly, we had a number of different policies, one that would just apply to internet and email, one that was intranet. So rather than continue to develop policies as things evolve, we developed an electronic media policy that would try to consolidate all of that. And when new things come down the road that we don't see, hopefully they would fit in here and it would just apply to everything. Part of that in looking at the electronic media policy was also to review kind of the balance between personal usage and business usage. And so that's why we had several people input on that, as well as senior management, to try to strike a reasonable balance there. We also actually reviewed 5 other municipalities nationwide to see what they were doing, and our policy is very much in the norm, a lot of similar language there. And then finally, and I omitted this in my memo, I apologize to Katie, but also kind of a restructure of the format of the policy itself, and Katie volunteered and did a lot of the work on restructuring the format. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have any questions.
Comments or questions?
Ash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-28.
Ordinance rezoning real estate, ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing approximately 1.97 acres from HB Highway Business, LI Light Industrial, and UG Urban Growth Overlay to HI Highway Business and LI Light Industrial, removing the property from the Lovers Lane Overlay District located on a portion of 2398 Scottsville Road, presently owned by This Is It LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Williams.
With the commission's courtesies, item 16, 17, and 18 are in the same family. It might be helpful if, for Ben to give an overview, if you'd like, at one time, then you can vote individually on them. If you have any questions at all.
Planning and zoning record in front of us. This first one here was by unanimous vote. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Peterson? Please call the roll.
Ash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-29.
Ordinance rezoning real estate, ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing 2.0189 acres from CB Central Business and PUD Planned Unit Development to PUD Planned Unit Development located at 700 and 705 State Street, presently owned by New Millennium Real Estate LLC.
So moved.
Motion by Williams, second by Nash. Again, this is a first reading. The planning and zoning record before us indicates it was also a unanimous vote. Are there any other comments or questions for Mr. Peterson? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-30.
ordinance rezoning real estate, ordinance rezoning tracts of land containing 43.74 acres from LI Light Industrial and F floodplain to HI Heavy Industrial and F floodplain located on Louisville Road, presently owned by Riley and Gibby Shelton with Southern Recycling LLC as contract vendee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Williams. This is also a first reading with the record from planning and zoning in front of us indicating that of the 11 members present, there were 9 yes votes, 2 abstained, and 0 no votes. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Peterson? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-31.
ordinance closing a public right-of-way, ordinance approving the closing of 2 unnamed alleys located on the property of 1010 State Street.
So moved.
Second.
By Perigin, second by Williams. This is a recommendation also from planning and zoning by unanimous vote. As I understand, this is the, if we don't vote on this, we're going to give drive-through window a new name because the building is already present where this building will go. Any other comments or questions? Please, I'm sorry.
It's the old Sears building.
Old Sears building, yes. Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-135.
municipal order approving the fiscal year 2018 sidewalk project locations, including design and survey, and authorizing the city law department to negotiate the purchase of properties necessary for these projects, and further authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute deeds, easements, and other documents related to land purchases necessary for the projects.
So moved.
Perigin, second.
Thank you, Mayor. On June 6th, we sunshined to the commission the list of sidewalks we want to do in the coming year. We're here tonight to start the next process of getting it done. I think it'd be appropriate for Greg Meredith to come forward and to answer any questions you may have about this important thing we're going to undertake this year. Greg?
And summon Mr. Meredith.
DeFebo, Mayor, Commissioners. This, as Mr. DeFebo stated, is our next phase. Once we went through our process to prioritize and to list and to select the projects for the upcoming fiscal year sidewalk new construction, which is estimated to be approximately $500,000 per year. Again, the streets that came out of that prioritization were Kenton Street between Collette and 10th, Park Street between Cabell and Ogden, continuation of Park Street from Ogden down to Logan, Magnolia Street from Lehman to East 10th, and North Lee Street in the area of Curbside Ministries down to Trent Way. And so with that, any other questions you might have, I'd be glad to try to answer.
Comments or questions?
Glad to see the whole thing continuing along. More and more sidewalks, good things.
Remind the public it's not based on me or Rick or Sue or Slim picking these. This is based on a system that assigns objective points to things like the number of pedestrians, number of traffics, the proximity to locations where people either do retail or other businesses and things like that, schools and parks. Yes, sir.
A good overview of that, the process the mayor is talking about, it can be found on Channel 4 video that our creative department just recently finished. Gives you an idea about our commitment to paving and about cuts and for utilities and how we choose streets. And I think it's quite a good video, and it helps people understand why and what we're doing.
Same methodology Technology for paving streets and that sort of thing as well. Any other
Continuing to work on that methodology and to enhance it based upon new tools with our GIS information, with census blocks, with lack of other transportation alternatives for folks. So we look at it holistically, as Mr. DeFabo said. Thank you.
comments or questions?
I want to say I really appreciate the sidewalks around town. I rode a bicycle probably 10 miles today, and it's, you know, even though you're not supposed to ride on sidewalks, I guess I did just to avoid collisions.
Understand it's not against the law here to do that, so
I'm glad to hear that.
that's a good thing. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-136.
Municipal order approving construction and accepting maintenance of Corvette View subdivision.
So moved.
Second?
Perigin, second by Nash.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the standing protocols we have in our subdivision protocol is that whenever a developer completes his requisite improvements to a subdivision, if they're done properly, we will accept them into the city. We're here tonight to accept 251 new feet into the city's domain of responsibility. Not to wear Greg out, but you have any questions, Greg is here about that.
Comments or questions?
Stop picking on Ben, and we moved over to Greg.
Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-137.
Municipal order approving the Disadvantaged Business Enterprises Plan for the City of Bowling Green Transit Program and authorizing its submission to the Federal Transportation Administration.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second.
I would ask Nick Cook to come up to give you a vetting of this particular municipal order. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo, Mayor, Commissioners. About 15 years ago, the city became a direct recipient of federal transit funding to provide local public transit service. And since that time, we've been required to have a plan to make transit system procurement opportunities available to disadvantaged business enterprises. That would be minority and women-owned businesses. We're required to update this plan every 3 years, so we're requesting your approval tonight for the FY18 plan update. There's no substantial changes with this year's update. However, I did want to point out that since the city does not provide transit service directly, but rather contracts this out with Community Action of Southern Kentucky, this plan primarily applies to their transit system purchases. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Actions represented tonight. We appreciate you taking Ken's place so we don't have to look at Ken. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2017-138.
Municipal order authorizing a subrecipient agreement between the City of Bowling Green and Bowling Green Human Rights Commission for years 14 Community Development Block Grant Program funding in the amount of $33,000.
So moved.
Second.
Perigin, second by Williams.
As an entitlement community, we're responsible and we want to provide fair housing, education, and outreach to our citizens. And this is also required by the Community Development Block Grant regulations. Instead of us doing that ourselves, we hire our partner at the Human Rights Commission to do this for us for the price of $33,000. We recommend your approval. Brent's here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions? Waddell is here with us representing the Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much. Oh, there's Chiquita. I'm sorry. This is your spot, isn't it? Yeah. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of BG 2017-32.
Ordinance annexing property by consent. Ordinance annexing a total of approximately 13.07 acres of property located at 5800 Scottsville Road with properties presently owned by VGF Investments LLC and said territory being contiguous to existing city limits and further approving an associated economic development annexation incentive agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Williams. Mr. Febo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to remind the public, and the commission already knows this, that we act upon annexation requests by consent. That means that people who want to be in the city asked us to allow them to come in. So we're here again tonight to perform that, answer to that request by annexing 13.7 acres along Scottsville Road. Given that this involves an economic development incentive, I thought it'd be important for Brent Childers, who manages that, along with Michael Grubbs, to come forward and explain what's happening here. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo. Good to be back again. So this property is actually the old driving range, 5800 Scottsville Road. So this is not the nursery that is next door or the Snowball ice cream place, the little blue building next door. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. This is the driving range property in the middle. So what the annexation incentive agreement does is it allows the developer or the property owner that is consenting to get a 5-year property tax rebate. And they have 10 years to start that, and then for that, then they will get a rebate for 5 years. So it's an incentive for a property owner or developer to bring property into the city, develop it, make the improvements, make the investment, and then start that rebate up to 10 years away from this point. So that gives them an opportunity to recapture some of that development investment that they made to bring this in. So we've provided these on a number of our consent annexations, especially in some of our high growth or higher growth commercial areas along Scottsville Road, Lovers Lane, Plano Road, those types of areas. So I'll entertain any questions on how that works if anybody has anything.
Comments or questions?
Just a comment, Brent, can you explain that the property tax, there is no loss of property tax for the county or school district? Could you explain that?
That is correct. The only thing that we are able to rebate is city property tax. So the other property taxes that are collected through the property tax calculation, which would be the schools or the counties, we cannot rebate those, so there is no loss there. It is only the city property tax. Also, we're also not rebating any type of occupational tax. If Jeff's about to talk about that, I'll steal his thunder. So this is just the city of Bowling Green property tax is the only thing that would be rebated. No loss to some of our partner organizations.
Besides there being no loss to our partner organizations, there's usually a significant gain as property is developed and it's worth more and it's assessed at a higher value. So there's a windfall on the other side too. Just want to point that out. That happens pretty much in all of these annexations as we annex vacant land and the vacant land gets developed and multi-million dollars of development gets put on that. That raises the assessment across the board for city, county, and schools.
Any other questions or comments?
Questions?
Thank you all.
Mr. Chair. Please call the roll.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-33.
Ordinance annexing property by consent. Ordinance annexing 33.87 acres of property located at 1854 Three Springs Road, parcel number 042A-51, presently owned by the estate of Owen Sims, and 12.48 acres of Interstate 65 right-of-way for a total of 46.35 acres, with said territory being contiguous to existing city limits, and further approving an associated economic development annexation incentive agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Nash. Mr. Nash, I think you're sponsoring this.
Yes, I did sponsor this particular item, Mayor. I appreciate the floor. I was approached by the property owner through their legal counsel concerning annexing this piece of property by consent into the city limits. There are a number of benefits that come along with that. Some of those were outlined by Brent in the annexation, voluntary annexation we did right before that, right before this item. In this particular case, the property owner intends to develop the piece of property, and they were looking for, once that property is developed, the many benefits that come along with already being inside the city. I was going to read them all, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to. You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Can I ask Ben a question on this one? Have they already been to planning and zoning with a proposal, what they're going to do with it?
There was a proposal before the Planning Commission approximately a month or two ago that was turned down, but they have made revisions to that and are coming back to the Planning Commission and will be heard Thursday night, right here.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Nash,
Yes.
Perigin.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2017-34.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances, ordinance amending Chapter 15, Business and General Regulations of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to make revisions to Subchapter 15-6, Storage, Sale, and Use of Fireworks.
So moved.
Second.
By Williams, second by Nash. Mr. Williams, I believe this is yours.
For some time, we've had some questions that have come out about our existing fireworks ordinance and our ability to enforce the rules that are there. This first attempt is meant to try to address some of those issues. And I understand that there are several here this evening that may have comments about this, so I wanted to go ahead and bring it to the floor. And before we close, before we end, I do have a statement I'd like to read.
No, I'm interested in hearing from the public first.
Anybody here from the public that would like to speak with regarding the fireworks ordinance amendments? Yes, sir. Please step forward and give us your name and address, please, for the record.
I'm Ryan Barefoot, and I'm a business owner here in Bowling Green, and I have a residency on 1015 Boat Landing Road, and we have a big community thing that we do every year with fireworks. We provide food to the community, the Delafield community down there, and we do a lot of where we shoot fireworks off for the whole community. And I just hate to see. I don't know what the ordinance is actually. What your main goal is. I know it's to address some things, and I understand that on some things that might be people shooting them at cars and doing things that are wrong. They don't need to be doing that kind of stuff. I completely get that, but just people shooting fireworks off just in general, just for the community, and wanting to ban those for, I would think that would bring a lot of revenue into the city as well, but the sale of them. And, I don't know what the total guidelines are behind that, but, I'm just hoping that we can, do something to, I like the existing rules that we have the way it is now. I think, me personally, I think it's a good way that it's being done now, but. I mean, do you have any comments on what you guys thinking you're wanting to do? From what I can read in the paper, it seems like you're wanting to ban pretty much everything that's not a Class C firework and down, correct?
The devices or the fireworks that are proposed to be banned would be missile-type rockets, mine shell cakes, and aerial shell kits. Everything else that is currently available would remain available. They are the ones that are the largest and pack the most amount of bang that force the device up into the air and rattles the most, rattles the most windows of the densely populated areas of the city.
I mean, is that something, just on the 4th of July, you wouldn't allow to be able to shoot, those off just on the 4th and maybe not during the other time frame that's already allotted?
I would love to say if it was just on the 4th, where you get my attention. No, I would love to say if it was just going to be on the 4th or even the 3rd and the 4th.
Right.
The problem is that when we create an ordinance, we have to have ability to enforce it. And if we're selling fireworks starting on the 15th of June, we're likely going to have people who are going to discharge fireworks on the 15th of June. It doesn't seem reasonable to say to fireworks retailers, you can start selling your fireworks on the 3rd, and they could be discharged on the 3rd, the 4th, and maybe even the 5th. And that's why approaching it from the standpoint of the fireworks as opposed to when they're discharged is one way to address the problem. I'm not suggesting it's the only way. But it is one way to address the problem.
True. Well, I just hope you guys, it's about, to me, it's about being an American and doing something for the community. And I would hate it if I wasn't, allowed to do that anymore. And, and I'm just thinking that, there's a way we can do it safely and hopefully still keep, those available to be shot off.
And I want to assure you, it's not my intent to cut into your level of patriotism or my level of patriotism or our ability to celebrate our independence. That's not the intent.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that intended to speak with fireworks, please, sir?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name's Jeff Christian. I own Thunderdome Fireworks. We operate 10 locations in Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. And, of course, I have a dog in the hunt. I want to go over some math with you. And there are other operators here as well. And we obviously have a vested interest in Bowling Green. Since 2011, my company has invested a little over $50,000 in the setup and operation of our businesses here. We've employed people from Kentucky, and we've paid tens of thousands of dollars in sales tax. Now, I don't know what the sales tax, how it works in Kentucky, but in Tennessee, part of the sales tax that we pay to the state comes back around to the city. I'm not sure if it works that way here. But if we just look at the amount of money that we pay in permit fees, I personally, or my companies, have paid over $20,000 since 2011. And I was looking at that request to pay for some equipment for the fire department at $207,000. I believe there were 21 tents in Bowling Green this year. I had 3 and there were 18 others. At just $1,000 a piece for the permit, that's $21,000 per year. Now, I know that over the next 4 or 5 years, if there are 21 tents and it generates $100,000, I know that you can't earmark that money to pay for just things for the Bowling Green or for the fire department. But I also know that if we're not here, that goes to zero, and that's just basic math. So I can tell you this, the types of fireworks that you're talking about, Commissioner Nash, those are the fireworks that make it worth setting up and doing. Those are the ones that the vast majority of our people that come to see us want to buy. They're not interested in doing, well, we sell bottle rockets and we sell Roman candles and we sell firecrackers. But the vast majority of our revenue comes from those larger fireworks. And I, like the gentleman before me, recognize that there are always idiots who shoot their fireworks at people's homes and shoot them at houses and things like that and do ridiculous things with them. I understand that. I also recognize the fact that, you know, some people look at fireworks retailers as sort of a gypsy business, it's just a stigma that we deal with. But I can assure you that the dollars that I earn at my fireworks tents put my 3 sons through college. You know, it's not my only business, but it was the money that I used to get them through college. So it's a real business with real revenue and real impact if we're not allowed to sell here in Bowling Green. Bowling Green accounts for 1/3 of my business. So that's a significant amount. Additionally, you know, I read the article about the 191 people that complained. And I'm sure that most of them had a reasonable complaint, a solid complaint. But it occurs to me, we had, in my tents alone, we ran a little over 3,000 tickets. 3,000 tickets. Most of those tickets were, you know, one ticket but multiple people. Most of the people that came to my tents were families. Because, you know, buying fireworks.
We have
Yes.
we have a 3-minute time limit on our.
Oh, we do?
on our
Oh, I'm sorry.
comments, so
Okay, well,
we're
how
at
much
that
do I have
limit
left?
Unless somebody has a question.
How much do I have left?
For a minute. We,
Can somebody else yield me some more time or something?
we,
Does it work that way?
so we got somebody else coming up
Okay,
to ask.
can I have Kirk's time?
He'll speak for you.
Can I speak for him?
No, he can speak, finish up your comments. We have a 3-minute time limit on our comments.
Well, I don't know if he
so-
knows what I was going to say, but I'll try to tell him. So the 3 minutes is up, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Man, I wish I'd known that. Come on up here, Kirk. This is how many happy people.
Thank you, Commissioners and Mayor. I'm Kirk Young, owner of Dirty Kirk's Fireworks, and I want to thank y'all for allowing me to get up here, so I'm going to talk quick because I got 3. I'm going to finish up what he was saying. He was saying that he had 3,000 happy people that come through his tent. versus the 191 complaints. And I'm willing to bet there wasn't 191 people. I bet you there was a few that hit redial. And I don't think we have a fireworks problem in this community. I think we have a neighbor problem. I think fireworks create a reason for the neighbor that's mad at his guy next door to call and complain. Now, I realize there are some issues with 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning fireworks shows, and I want to ask how many citations have been written since 2011?
It's part of the issue we're going to discuss.
Do y'all have a number?
Yeah, 0.
Okay. And that's where I'm at. I'm happy with the ordinance and the time periods, but I'd like to see some tickets written and see if that will deter, because as a retailer, I haven't shot any fireworks 200 feet or less towards a home. I haven't shot fireworks past 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm in the selling business, but y'all trying to put me out of business for something that some idiot is doing, not what I'm doing. And I've paid every single permit, every fee, every single sign I put up, $25. 0 to 3 employees, that's $25 a day I'm in business. And I pay that happily. But I just asked y'all to just, realize that there's more out here than just idiots. We got people, I got a little girl back there that's gonna go to college on firework money. She's gonna get her first vehicle, firework money. I work 60 hours a week, a regular job, plus I take my vacation time to do this fireworks. And I understand, Mr. Nash, you're in the landscaping business. What if I told you couldn't ride a lawnmower no more, you had to weed eat? Because that's basically what you're doing to me. You're taking 95% of my revenue, saying I can't sell it. Basically, you probably mow 95% of your yards with a riding lawnmower. Is that correct?
Sir, I do.
So if I told you had to weed eat all of them, that would probably put you back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much time I got left, but that's about all I got to say. I appreciate y'all.
Ma'am, would you step forward, please, and give us your name and address?
Hi, my name is Maria Davila. I live at 301 Maple Ridge Street in the Greystone subdivision, which is a fairly rural part within the city limits. I love fireworks. I enjoy the 4th of July. I have purchased bottle rockets myself at the firework tent. I mean, I don't know much about fireworks. I've bought them, I've set them off, followed the rules. Here's my issue. My mother is the homeowner of 301 Maple Ridge Street. My mother suffers from what's called NPH. It's a symptom of dementia. She has fluid on her brain. And when people don't follow the rules, and we have somebody at 10:05 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and so forth, we've got these explosions. If you've got pressure on your brain and you're hearing these things all throughout the night, she's begging the heavens for relief. And the thing is on the 4th of July, or before 10 p.m. in that week period, we know to expect it and we can plan to mitigate her symptoms. But when you have people who don't follow the rules, it can send her to the hospital. It can be dangerous for me as her sole caretaker. And I don't think a ban is the answer. And I know that more regulations will lead to an inundation for our police department, and that's not good either. So I'm not sure what the answer is, and I do enjoy fireworks. I just think that we need to come to a reasonable compromise that works for the whole community and our health and safety. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please, sir.
Nick Blizzard, 1113 Ridgecrest Way. I'm right here at the corner of Ridgecrest and Small House. It's a fairly densely populated area on the city side of Small House Road. I know the ordinance is 200 feet from an occupied structure. I can tell you that we were not one of the 190 some callers, so I think there are a lot of people that just didn't call. They just dealt with it or posted on Nextdoor or Facebook or whatever outage they had. These fireworks in our area, in a very tightly packed area, They were mortar type, they were professional, and they were going off for over 4 hours. There is nowhere between Highland Park and the bypass where you can be more than 200 feet from an occupied structure. There literally is just nowhere. If there was any enforcement, they had 4+ hours to go drive the area and say, hey, those fireworks are in a really dense area. We probably ought to see where they're being set off at. Oh, look, some guy's out in his driveway setting off mortars. I'd like to say it's just a hassle, but it's more than that. My wife deals with PTSD, and like the previous one, it's something that we've just learned to deal with. And so we try and stay busy, stay out of the area. But they continued this time until nearly 2 in the morning. That's a lot of fireworks. I'm all for patriotic. I personally don't support this ban. I don't believe that it is the right way to go. I think we have the ordinances on the book. I think that potentially patrols in the areas would be beneficial. It's not like, these are large fireworks. It's not like you just run out in your driveway and set them off. They take a little time to set up, and they're setting them off for hours. There's plenty of time to drive over and say, you can't do that. I'm going to cite you, or you can't do that, and you're going to spend a night in jail. I think that enforcement is the answer to this problem, and I'd like to see some of that done if possible. I don't know what the specific reasons are why there have been no citations, but I'm very interested to hear it. Thank you.
Can I say something to this man? Is that okay? Is it okay for us to talk up here? Okay. I'm going to agree with you. I live on Highland Way, and so we're kind of neighbors.
I know. I actually know where you live. We'd walk by your house before.
Okay. We'll stop in and say
during the
hi.
election and stuff.
Oh, the one with all the signs.
Yeah.
Shameful signs. I actually have to agree with you, and I would like to sort of throw out something there that that I think could really work. If we could, so the other gentleman that owns the fireworks stands, $20,000 comes into our community just solely for fireworks. Why not allow our police chief to give us a proposal as to how we can spend whatever dollars we need to spend to be proactive in our enforcement rather than reactive. Don't wait for the phone call, in other words. Actually be in the neighborhood, and that's what you do. Sort of a, not much different than you would see like a checkpoint, a sobriety checkpoint. This is your job for tonight, and this is what, and we really make a large effort to educate the public through whatever medium that we can to know, hey, maybe in the past this hasn't really been enforced, but it's going to be enforced, and therefore, be warned that we are now going to put resources behind enforcement. Who knows? All we can do is propose it and look at the numbers and see how the numbers go, because if the county sells fireworks, they're still convenient. And I don't believe we can ask Gene or Doug that it's illegal to possess fireworks within the city limits, whether we sell them or not. You can still possess them. I think the issue is use and following the current ordinance that we have. So we have an enforcement issue. Of course, we have a respect issue. People that are doing that are very disrespectful, and I don't mind saying that here out loud. Frankly, I work in the mornings, and I heard, he's right. That part of our city is very densely populated, and it was
a long time. If there was some way to mark areas, say, maybe near the high school, there's a large grass area there at the high school. There's the ballparks at the high school. Pick some places where they say, hey, if you want to set off those big fireworks, here's a great place to come do it, and people can sit in the stands and watch. But doing it out in your driveway, especially with mortars, that's just
And I'm not sure
stupid.
the Delafield community, if there is a place within 200 feet of no structure and cars, if everything's done correctly, and it's done within the ordinance, okay.
I have the city, they shut the road down for us, so we do it safe, we have to be
There. So that would be my sort of idea of how to help people to understand that we mean business. We're not here to be disrespectful or to keep people from having celebrations. My goodness, I mean, that's the birth of our country. And I believe there's a quote out there from John Adams or somebody that said there will be noises and celebrations from here until our country is no longer in existence. It's part of what we do, but we still need to do it within reasonable constraints that are already on the books, and earmark some resources, or let the chief tell us what he needs. What is it that you need? And then hold those officers that we specifically assign, that'd be all they do, to some level of accountability for enforcement.
We don't live in Nashville. I can drive end to end in this town in about 15 minutes. I think it's possible to do patrols like you say, and I think that'd be a great option.
Now, I would welcome comments
Thank
on
you.
that, maybe from the chief, if that's possible. Is that okay?
Sure. We love to hear from Chief Hawkins.
Thank you for the invitation to be here. Let me assure the public, let me assure the commission, there has been a lack of enforcement, not because there's a lack of a desire to enforce. This is a very difficult violation to enforce because of the nature of the law, the nature of the specifics of the type of law. This is a misdemeanor, okay? The part of the law that really comes into play with respect to what law enforcement, what police officers can do, we're not talking about the violations of the sales of. What we are talking about is the violation of the discharge of, and that within our realm of authority is the 200-foot rule. Everybody knows, most everybody knows, there's a 200-foot rule that applies to the discharge, the legal and proper discharge of fireworks. But what most people don't understand about the nature of this law is it's a misdemeanor, and that requires a police officer, in order to enforce it, to actually see the firework being discharged before they can take any enforcement action. It's not based on, nor can it be based on, evidence of the discharge. Does that make sense? There can be debris in the road. There can be people standing around the debris in the road. There can be people with the means to effectuate the discharge. But if we don't see the actual violation, which is the discharge within 200 feet of a car, a person, or a structure, we cannot take any enforcement action, right? And I know that's very frustrating for the public, but it's also very frustrating for us because we understand that there is a desire. And look, we live to enforce laws. That is what we do. We want to make our community safe. We want to make our community happy through those enforcement of laws. The number of calls, and I know we provided those to maybe most of the commission this week. There has been, in 2011, you all may remember, there was sort of a last-minute approval of this ordinance, right? It was approaching the 4th, if I remember right. So the first year that people had a chance to plan for, prepare for, set up tents for, get their permits for, the big year was 2012, and we saw a spike of calls for service, over 500 calls during the June 15th through a couple of days past 4th of July. And we have seen a steady decline in the number of calls for service since then. We are in the mid-200 range over that same roughly 3-week period. And so there is a trending down of the calls for service. Now, I'm not going to offer an explanation other than fewer people are calling. Does that mean they're more tolerant? Does that mean they think that our inability or the difficulty in enforcement is just not worth their call? I don't know what's causing them not to call, but I do know that we are getting less calls for service. Now, what that also means is the demand on our service in terms of police calls is going down as well. And so that doesn't justify me putting a lot more officers in the field, because if I have 200 calls over what is effectively a 15-day period, when you divide that out over time, even though the bulk is July 3rd, July 4th, July 5th, the demand on our resources is not extensive. However, what it does, if there is public outcry, if there is direction from the commission, we certainly can rally some of our resources if that requires overtime to do it. Frankly, it takes a little bit of strategy on our part in terms of how we deploy those resources to put them in a position to be able to see the violations. Now, we provided a map to some folks this week that showed where the calls for service on fireworks were. They're all over town, right? They're in every neighborhood in town. They're in my neighborhood. They're in Sue's neighborhood. They're in Slim's neighborhood. They're in all of our neighborhoods. And so this is not a problem that I can't write a ticket for every violation, right? I have said this for my entire career as a police officer. Society depends on the voluntary compliance of laws, right? We can't be at every stop sign. We can't be at every traffic signal. So we all benefit from voluntary compliance. Even if we deploy additional resources, and even if we use strategies that we haven't been asked to use before in terms of enforcement, we can do that, but we're not going to be able to stop every violation, right? Just like we haven't stopped every red light from being run and every stop sign from being run, we can certainly make an effort, and we can probably, with additional resources and additional strategies, engage in some enforcement action. But the demand, at least based on the calls for service, hasn't justified that. I need you all to tell us to do that, or direct us and ask us to do that, because we can certainly take some of those resources if the community so desires and start applying those toward that specific enforcement action.
In my mind, if we never gave out the first speeding ticket and everybody in town knew that you were never going to get a speeding ticket, I'm wondering how many speeders we would have. Everybody.
Agreed.
Everybody. But if there is some sort of, accountability for your actions at some point, we do start enforcing. I think people, for the most part, we probably don't have a lot of people running stop signs and speeding, and as many as we would think probably, because there's a consequence, and it hits you in your wallet. And that's,
right. And I would not be able to give a cost estimate for that type of enforcement action if we chose to do it, but there would be a cost. There would have to be some overtime. Obviously, a number of officers would have to be deployed to be anything approaching effective, but we can do that.
It's just a suggestion. I'm not speaking for this. I'm just coming.
Understand.
From
but that is a strategy we can take if so chosen.
Seems a little more proactive rather than waiting for that phone call coming into dispatch and then dispatching an officer that's already got 3 or 4 things they have to get done. By the time you get there, I looked at the list, be on the lookout or gone on arrival, or, it's over by the time you can get somebody. But if you have, a kind of a task force assigned, and that's all you do, is you're in the neighborhood already, and, it's not hard to see those things. They're pretty easy to see. And it's just an idea. Just throwing it out there. So if you can buy them in the county, you're going to bring them to the city.
Chief Hawkins, this may not be a fair question, and if it's not, I couldn't answer this for the own company that I work for, but if you were to if you could, can you give me what the average overtime rate of pay per hour is?
Can get really close. Okay. And the reason I can do that is we engage in some contracts throughout the community for our police services that are done on special events and so forth, and our finance department recalculates those every July, and maybe Jeff even knows the numbers better than I do, but it is somewhere around $60 an hour, because that includes their pay, their benefits, the use of the vehicle. It's amortized, and it's about $60 an hour to put a police officer on the street for an hour. And that's a rough round number. Jeff, do you remember the exact figure? That's pretty close. Yeah. And a supervisor is more. Obviously, a captain would be more. So, but that would be your base rate.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Any other comments before we? Yes, ma'am. Have your name and address, please.
Good evening, Amy Burge, Skylight Fireworks. I'm one of the local vendors in the area, run other businesses in the community, and I know some people have already touched on things that I was going to talk about. One thing, and I know complaints have been a big issue, and is that the main thrust of the issue here? People complaining? Is that, I'm just trying to understand. I was blindsided by this yesterday, and from a retailer standpoint, I'm just trying to understand, is that what it is? Just a bunch of people are upset, so we're thinking about changing the law?
For me.
Okay.
Yeah.
For you?
My constituents, those that elect me.
Of course, we know everything we do in life, there's people that are going to be advocates against it. That's common sense. I mean, I read in the paper 191 out of a town of what? I don't know what the last census report was, 60,000 people. That's a pretty low percentage, I feel. I've said, one of my big quirks with fireworks, people come in our tents. We run 5 locations, 2 in Bowling Green. I, by the way, paid $2,800 roughly in fees this past year. 21 locations, we've kind of done the math on that. A few notes about the fireworks industry. You may not realize more than $800 million was spent on fireworks nationwide. There's only 3 states now, 3 states that don't allow fireworks. So you see what several states turned the leaf this past year and started allowing fireworks sales. Education is a key. Fireworks safety, I could understand if we were having this conversation because a lot of people were getting hurt. Studies show in states, in cities where fireworks are legal, education, because of reputable retailers that have shown up right here. They educate. I educate every customer that comes in my tent. I tell them about the dangers, and to my knowledge, and I watch for this, I haven't seen of any severe injuries in the last, since this has been passed. That is, to me, the utmost importance. I understand, I sympathize with the gal that just mentioned her elderly mother. I have dogs. I understand everyone's concerns, but educating ourselves, knowing what we're doing. I always say fireworks are like drugs. And they really are. They're out there, but if they're regulated, just like guns, if they're regulated, guns are safe if they're handled by the right people properly. And the same is the case with fireworks. If you have these reputable retailers in here, in Bowling Green, selling these fireworks, you know how many times I have somebody come in my tent and say, my neighbor down the road, he sells that product right there in his garage. Well, I can't say anything. Very frustrating to me because we obey Brian O'Callahan's strict permit or strict regulations. Everyone here does. That fire department's top notch. I know these guys deal with people in other counties, other people that come in for inspections. They're top notch. Why you would want to change any of this from a retail sales standpoint and take a step back is beyond me.
Thank you.
Is beyond me, and I'd love to answer any questions. I want to tell you one fact.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your time has expired.
Fireworks injuries are down 43% from 20 years ago, and more states are selling fireworks. Thank you very much for your time.
Anybody else? Did you have something else you wanted to say before, Mr. Cleveland?
I think it's important that we have this discussion here this evening. And that was the main impetus to start this whole thing. There have been good points made on both sides of the issue. With the question about complaints, that's always going to be how things are looked at. That's why things get changed. That's how problems are brought to somebody's attention, and you try to do something about it. Whether or not that we have the perfect solution, I don't know. I couldn't venture to say that whatever we do is going to be perfect. But it's important that we do something because what we're doing now is obviously not working. I've got a little statement here that I'd like to read, if y'all will bear with me. The proliferation of people shooting off the larger fireworks in our community at strange hours has reached a level where I think it requires us to take action in order to restore a level of common sense when it comes to public celebrations. The current fireworks ordinance contains provisions mirroring Kentucky state law that sets a minimum 200-foot boundary from any structure where it would actually be legal to ignite a firework. This rule would actually limit almost all of the city of Bowling Green from providing a legal area in which to shoot off the larger fireworks. The Bowling Green Police Department has received hundreds of official complaints over the past few years regarding people who are ignoring this rule. But the problem in enforcing it is that under Kentucky law, the police officer must actually witness someone violating the law. in order to cite them under the provisions of our current local fireworks ordinance. It is obvious to me that we have to change something in the ordinance that will permit enforcement of the rules. That is why I had intended to propose that we make revisions to our city fireworks ordinance to make the larger fireworks illegal to display, sell, ignite, and possess within the boundary of the city limits of Bowling Green, Kentucky. The changes wouldn't eliminate all classes of fireworks, only the larger and louder ones. People would still be able to use common sense sized fireworks in approved areas and during the specified times. These changes would certainly not completely eliminate the prohibited fireworks from making their way into our city, nor prevent those who choose to ignore the law from firing them. But I thought they would afford our enforcement officials with a method to do something about it. With possession of these fireworks made illegal, it was my hope that our police officers, inspectors, and enforcement officials would have the tool of confiscation, along with the ability to cite when they see the prohibited class of fireworks. No longer will their hands be tied by having to visually witness someone lighting a firework in an unauthorized area. It was my hope that if we were able to put these changes into effect for the city of Bowling Green, that Warren County Fiscal Court would follow suit with similar rules. Yes, people might still drive to Tennessee or even surrounding counties to buy the larger fireworks, but kids on bicycles wouldn't be able to ride up to one of the many tents and purchase them. And let me just say that. Let me just say something on that. I would hope that none of these people that are here tonight who seem like reputable fireworks dealers would sell to a child, anybody under 18, but they're getting them somehow. The amount of revenue received from the sale of the larger classification of fireworks is certainly not worth the price paid by most of the citizens of Bowling Green, who must suffer through the excess noise and safety issues created by them during unauthorized hours. Not just during the approved display dates and times, but for weeks before and afterward. That's why I had numerous conversations with our city attorney, Gene Harmon, about the proposed changes and asked him to draft them into our existing fireworks ordinance. I was told by him that all of this could be done, and we proceeded to sponsor it and place it on today's agenda. However, yesterday, at the last minute, I received an opinion from our city attorney that the Commission does not have the authority to ban the possession of these larger fireworks by individuals, and that the police and/or other enforcement personnel would continue to be handcuffed with the stipulation that they must actually witness the ignition of the prohibited firework in order to cite the offender. This was an unexpected and severe blow to the remedy of the problem that I had originally hoped for. It is for this reason that I propose and move that the item be tabled until the next regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners to give us and our city attorney an opportunity to work on a concept and language that will allow us to accomplish the goal of creating a better and more effective method of enforcement related to the misuse of fireworks in our community.
Motion on the floor to table, is there a second? Second. Table until the next meeting by Williams, seconded by Nash. There's no discussion on the motion for table. Please call the roll.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. End of discussion this next meeting to take a look at. The next item we have is a discussion, and it'll take them a moment to get set up, so we're going to take a 5-minute break and be right back. Okay, we're back from our recess to have a presentation. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, it's an exciting time with Fountain Square being remodeled, but it's important to realize that's only phase one of our goal for to connect downtown. If some of you remember back in the early 2000s, the vision was established to by people on this commission, by others, to establish an 18-hour downtown to unite Fountain Square with Circus Square and to present a vision and a place for people to enjoy the benefits of downtown living, entertainment, and way of life. We're here tonight to talk about the second phase of that vision, which is to make improvements to the generalized Fountain Square area, including the roadway and the sidewalks and the signage and all the contiguous things to the actual park, as well as to connect the vision of Circus Square to Fountain Square. As we talked about in retreat, we need professional help. Although we don't like the idea of having to pay for needy consultants, every so often you have a generational need to bring in professional help to create the type of information we need to make thoughtful decisions. Tonight we're here to hear from Vaughn and Melton Consulting Engineers. The team that has been putting this together has been headed by Katie, Greg Meredith, and Brent Childers. I believe that Brent's going to lead off, and Kate and Greg are going to subsidize, as well as we'll have a presentation from Vaughn and Melton on the phase 2 of the Fountain Square project. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo, Mayor and Commissioners. Downtown has seen investment for about 15, 20 years. It's seen a tremendous amount of investment. What we started working on started a couple of years ago, and there was a group of staff representing Neighborhood and Community Services, City Manager's Office, Police Department, our Parks, Landscaping, Public Works, that really wanted to start looking at how do we improve some other aspects of downtown. The things that aren't just big projects like SkyPack and Hot Rods and those types of things, but how do we improve some of the other aspects of downtown? We started that mission looking at wayfinding. We've since kind of partnered with the Convention Visitors Bureau and turned that off to them as part of their community wayfinding tourism system. So then we began to focus on kind of the public improvements. What is the public things in this, what we call downtown square? And whenever we're talking about downtown square, downtown means something different to everybody. So we had to kind of define what is the downtown square. So we're really looking at the portion that is really Fountain Square to Circus Square. That's kind of what we're calling the downtown square, that generalized area and the connections between those two landmark parks, both of those being completely different parks, one being a historic park with a lot of history and meaning to a lot of people, one being a much newer park, but is the center of a lot of community events and concerts and gatherings. So we wanted to bring those two pieces together. We started looking at the staff level, walking the alleys, looking at things, looking at from a safety, security, from a maintenance standpoint. How does this impact users, visitors, people that are in our downtown? What are ways that we can make this better? What we realized was there's a lot of opportunity in this area. We saw a lot of opportunity with pedestrian flow, with traffic, with security, with safety, with maintenance. We saw opportunity. We presented that opportunity to you all at retreat back in January to kind of share the vision that we saw with you of what we believe downtown Bowling Green, this downtown square could be. But we also recognized that we needed outside assistance. We couldn't do this on our own. We needed somebody with expertise in this sort of thing. This isn't just we want to build a sidewalk or we want to build a trail or we want to build a park. We're really asking for the opportunity to make a generational project change in downtown Bowling Green. And that's how we as members of this committee see this. We see us making an investment for the future of this area long term. And that's what we're trying to find a partner that comes alongside of us and does those types of, and sees that and believes that as we go through this project. So we used a little bit different process than what we're used to doing here at the City of Bowling Green. I'd used it in my prior employment. Greg used it in his prior employment. It's called a request for qualifications. It's common. It's very allowable under state procurement code. What you do, though, is a little bit different. You're asking for what are the qualifications of your firm. You're picking a partner based on their qualifications, and then you negotiate cost and scope and contract and things like that. Generally, we use an RFP process, which kind of flip-flops those. We really felt it important to find a firm that was going to come alongside us in this. We had invested a considerable amount of time. We understand what this area of Bowling Green means to this community. We went through, we received, I think, 9 applications, interviewed 3 firms, selected Vaughn and Melton. What we were really looking at as they were presenting and listening and hearing their experience and what they did was the amount of references they made to listening to the community for the public input. You know, it's one thing to just be able to design a sidewalk or a street or an improvement. It was another thing to really know that they were going to listen to the public, come alongside of us as we do that process, and also looking at building on the attributes that we already have in our community. We're very fortunate. We're not trying to build this from scratch. We're trying to bring some of the investments that have been made over that 20 years together to provide some cohesiveness in this area, to provide for some safe pedestrian facilities in this area, and really maximizing the dollars that we're going to invest for the best impact for the citizens of this community and the visitors that come to downtown Bowling Green. And so that's why we wanted to bring them forward to you. This is a little bit different. We're not used to doing it this way through a traditional consulting path, but as Mr. DeFebo said, every now and then there are projects that are a little bit different. So we felt like this was one of those projects, and we wanted to give an opportunity to bring Vaughn and Melton in under their lead, Mr. James Ballinger. He's brought some members of his team to introduce themselves, get a little bit of overview. I know it's been a long night, so we'll try to keep our comments as brief as possible. So that you understand who is going to be our partner, who we're wishing to be our partner moving forward. Our plan is to have a recommendation at the next Board of Commissioners meeting for approval of an agreement, so there's no item on the agenda tonight. This is just kind of here's who we're looking at. We'll be finalizing the rest of it in time for the next meeting. But I will turn it over to James, and then I'll be available for any questions or comments that come up at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent, and Mayor Wilkerson, Commissioners, and City Manager DeFebo. We thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight and introduce our team that we've been working with, the Downtown Bowling Green team that's going to be working on the current project that's underway as well as the future project in the downtown area, though, and we just really thank you all for this opportunity, and we appreciate that. Again, my name is James Ballinger. I'm with Vaughn and Melton Consulting Engineers. My office is in Lexington, Kentucky. And Vaughn and Melton, just a brief background, we are a 50-year-old company, originally started in Middlesboro, Kentucky, and we do civil engineering work. We all over the southeastern United States. We have 15 offices located in 6 different states, 245 employees. We offer a wide range of services, everything from transportation design, water resources, surveying, GIS work. We do a lot of work for universities. In Kentucky, we're currently working for Eastern Kentucky University, Berea College, Lincoln Memorial University, doing some work on those campuses. So we're a full range of services type engineering company. We've got a lot of experts that can do just about anything in the civil engineering field. In this particular project for the Bowling Green downtown redevelopment, it was important to also team with a landscape architect because of the needs for this particular project with the Greenway connector, with the, as Brent mentioned earlier, some of the security concerns there at Morse Alley, and just to redesign some of the downtown area so that it's more cohesive. You guys have done a fantastic job, though, of having lots of pieces and parts in place. So I call it having good bones. There's good bones in this community, though, and I think that there's a real opportunity, though, for us to listen to the community and really develop some of that cohesiveness, though, that can really make a difference and make this improve the quality of life in your community. And with that, I want to introduce our team members that we have with us tonight. I have Cliff Brooks from Carroll R. Johnson and Associates. They're a landscape architect that we work on several projects with. Currently, we're working on Cumberland Avenue in Knoxville, Tennessee We've got a close working relationship with them in that community. And if you've ever been to a University of Tennessee football game where all the kind of the tailgating goes on in that area, there's a major project that's a downtown streetscape project that's going on. One of the biggest projects. It is the biggest project going on in Knoxville currently. And Vaughn and Melton is taking the lead. And Carol R. Johnson, they're our landscape architect that's working on everything from the rain gardens, the bump outs, the sidewalks, the street furniture, the appurtenances that are designed along the Cumberland Avenue project. We're also working with them on the Sevierville project in Tennessee. So it's another streetscape project that's very similar to the downtown Bowling Green project. So we've got a long relationship with those guys. And also, as Brent mentioned too, I think a very important component of this project though is the listening part of this, listening to the local community. And as the interview that we did with the team that you guys have assembled, though, I'm going to read what our promise to them was, and I think that's important. And the promise was, we will listen to and actively engage with your stakeholders and community to help guide project-specific solutions that will provide a model for the entire downtown Bowling Green redevelopment, though. So we see this project as, there's going to be specific solutions, though, that will, as the phase 2, that will enhance the work that's underway, but it'll also, as we listen to what the needs of the entire larger community is, though, it'll provide that model for that. And with me tonight is Becky Rehorn. She's our Public Relations Director for the company, though, and she's our ball of fire. She's our energy. She really is just an expert at going out and engaging and listening to the stakeholders in the community, though, to help guide our decision-making and our recommendations for you guys. It's your project, though, and of course, we've got a lot of experience doing these things. This is the kind of work that we do and like to do. We enjoy doing these kind of projects. And so we feel that early on what we're going to do is we're going to listen. We're going to listen to the Bowling Green the downtown team. We're going to listen to the community. We're going to listen to the business owners and stakeholders, and then develop project-specific solutions, though, that we will then present back to the city for final recommendation, and we'll make sure that we do that within your budget as well. I think that's a very important component and a strength that I think that we have as a team, though, is that we'll not only listen to the community, the stakeholders, the business owners, but we're going to listen to the leaders here in this community as well. And with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you guys may have as to where we are with the project right now. Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Mayor. Apologize. Go ahead.
Is there a timeline on this?
Yeah, good question. What we wanted to do was really be ready to go to bid in approximately 1 year. So what the scope that we're working on kind of lays out is once we get this approved, we go ahead and start this stakeholder meeting, to start the conversations this fall, enter pre-design, final design, bid prep through the spring, and so we're starting to go to bid about 1 year from now. Our goal is July 2018 is go to bid.
This encompasses the current Fountain Square in connection with Circus Square?
Yeah, there's a current project under construction right now that is a parks project interior to the square. But what we would be looking at is public improvements around the square and then also connecting to Circus Square. So one of the major connections, there's two. You got College Street and State Street, two one-way streets that connect between the two. So part of this is looking at the traffic flow of downtown Bowling Green. You have very wide streets. And then the other part is the connection through what we call the Greenway or the Heritage Trail or Capitol Alley, that pedestrian corridor. And then also Morris Alley. Morris Alley has a lot of challenges. So that's why, they'd be looking at those main corridors and those main areas, and also kind of building face to building face, building face to building face along Fountain Square Park area. So we wanted to look at this from a lot of different perspectives. We've looked at it from landscaping and a maintenance perspective, but also a safety and security perspective. Any other questions, comments?
Point. Commission has always acknowledged that we have been saving funds for projects. Kate tells me we've been saving for a number of years for this, and we have over $1 million set aside for improvements. We don't think it'll cost that much, but we've been saving for a number of years. Oh, we're gonna cost $1 million?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but we have the money, so we're not have to go to debt to do that. But
We've already got 1.5 million set aside, and we plan to have at least that much again in next year's budget.
So I'm pretty sure there's folks out there that are listening to this conversation and they're dying to give input already. Is that something that you want to be formalized process, or?
Yeah, and part of the scope, which I don't want to talk too much about that tonight because we haven't finalized everything, was what they're planning to do is go ahead and create a website domain that would already have everything. Also some other social media ways so people could stay engaged with the project as it's going from this pre-design to design to the engineering. And then also, their involvement doesn't stop once this goes to bid. Their involvement continues until project completion. So that could take a whole nother year in that process, because one of the things that we realize is projects in the downtown area can often be difficult to coordinate. You have a lot of impacts, and especially whenever you're talking about a project of this scale, of this magnitude, you start looking at redesigning sidewalks and roadways and things like that. You're going to have impacts to business operations, and they would be part of our team for that and assisting in that and helping facilitate those communications so we can lessen the amount of impacts as much as possible. Any other questions? Thank you all for the opportunity.
executive session, there may be a vote.
Public comment section first, so we'll give people the opportunity to have comments they'd like to make. This would be their opportunity to step up now to make those. Address for the record.
Can you all hear me okay? A little bit of a low talker. Leah Ashwell, 1318 Richland Drive. And I'm here tonight as the director of the Citizenship, the director of the Center for Citizenship and Social Justice, as well as just a private citizen. So it's with much appreciation that I have the opportunity to stand before you tonight and speak on behalf of many citizens of Bowling Green who are as concerned as I am about our lack of legal protection for all marginalized populations in our growing community, including protected classes for gender identity and sexual orientation. I became more aware of this issue when my role expanded this year at WKU, and this is the first time that I've had the privilege to teach courses and work directly with students who were exploring issues of social justice in a classroom setting. And so some of the issues that we explored this year, one of the issues was the proposed fairness ordinance, and students were instructed to conduct background research on the full scope of this issue. So if you recall, some of these students reached out to you all just to get a better understanding of your stance on the issue. However, they reported that only one of you had responded back to them with your willingness or availability to meet in person or even speak by phone, so thank you, Slim, for that. But thankfully, they were able to connect with other representatives with varying stances, including people like Brandon Border and Richard Nelson from the Commonwealth Policy Center, who did make time to speak with them. So despite the lack of response from our commission, they were still able to explore the issue comprehensively, and I too learned a lot from this classroom experience with them. So I think the one thing that's really shed some light for me on just how divisive this issue has become for our community is that for the first time in 14 years that I've worked for WKU, I did not feel comfortable inviting the mayor of our city to an annual recognition ceremony to hand out certificates and pose for pictures with students recognized for their publicly engaged work in our city. So unfortunately, I had students that literally felt offended by Mayor Wilkerson's presence because of your public stance on the fairness issue. And this is extremely troubling to me. It makes me sad. I've known all of you for a very long time and worked with you for many years. So at this point, the fairness issues came kind of personal for me. So I just want to say that the unwillingness of our commission to have an open dialogue, much less allow a vote on the fairness ordinance, I'm afraid it's about one thing, and I'm afraid it's about politics. And I know that it's scary for you to consider passing this ordinance when you feel so strongly that so many people who voted to put you in office do not want a fairness ordinance. But sometimes voters are not on the right side of justice. It's just that simple. It doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them human. But I would like to argue that it is indeed your responsibility as elected officials to do what is sometimes hard but right and just, and not just what is easy or popular. It's wrong to discriminate against anyone. We all know that.
Yeah, I'm sorry your time has expired.
Well, thank you for your time.
Else? Right now, I'll talk to you in a minute. Mr. Gerard, do you have a comment?
Hello, everybody, and I appreciate the people at home watching this on TV. It's one of the drier shows, but it could be the most important. I'm here today reacting to an emergency, or emergency caused by people of your administration with high titles that are in the room here. Used to be something we feared in the Old West, saying someone was trigger happy. Well, these people are cut happy. People downtown, all over downtown, are worried about the trees being cut down, the big ones that are green and healthy and giving us shade, which we need desperately. And these men are over here, standing over here. They cannot tell me good reasons, pathological reasons, what's wrong with the tree. They can't say that it's falling down and hurting people. They're passing false propaganda around saying that branches are coming out and hitting people in the head, and people are slipping on foul-smelling mess on the sidewalk, which does not occur. They're falsely reporting incidents and spreading fear in Bowling Green. The city merchants, I've gone around, we've talked about them. About the trees. Most of the people, but one girl at Subway, and humorously, she wanted to make the whole park a parking lot. Well, we're going to make it a parking lot if we take care of cut down the beautiful Norfolk pine tree there on the corner, the ancient ginkgo female tree that's bigger than the one at Western, and the water maple tree that's on the other side where on Sunday, I used to like to park my car under there in the shade. Limbs are not falling down and hitting people in the head there either. Now, even worse and sadder that I must say to everybody else and for all history, we had a famous walkway here on the courthouse of the black oak trees, probably donated for World War I, unless my relatives planted there. They're about 100 years old. We were going around on a campaign, and we gave the mayor a list of people responsible, the chain of command. We gave it to Amy Milliken, the prosecuting attorney. We gave it to Peanut Gaines, the Warren County sheriff. We were going around getting support for this. Well, the tree disappeared. We will never have that walkway again. It was a historic picture walkway out here in a historic building. These people are criminally wrong for injuring a right-of-way. They're criminally wrong for tampering with evidence. According to the law, if there's any chance that these matters will come before you, the city commission, which they didn't ask first, or to the courts, or for petitions, which were allowed those rights on the 1st and 12th article of the Kentucky Constitution. We've been denied that rights by these arrogant tree people that say that they know better than everyone else because they're experts on risk analysis or they've got a degree in trees.
Your time has expired.
We have an emergency. Please put a moratorium and continue this discussion for later. Thank you very much. Thank you. I've got charges will be forthcoming. Thank you very much, everyone. All tree lovers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Moreland, and I want to talk to 3 issues. One, it's really strange that we don't have enough money to pay for more police officers when we have 9 on staff and we need more, especially if we do something about the fireworks. So we need more money to give to the Bowling Green Police Force. And Mayor, it's kind of strange that you haven't hired more police officers. Okay, 2, the small business development, you took that out of the budget. Now, that is wrong. Small business development is what this area was built on, small businesses, and you shouldn't have the right to do that. You should actually give money to the small business development. Now, the reason why they're not here is because, you know, what I don't understand is the idea that I had for the small business development by giving it to small businesses to let them grow. Nobody thinks it's a good idea. But think about what it's going to do. It's going to teach people how to run businesses. You know, it's going to show people that we can have the American dream and run businesses and stuff like that. So don't give up. Don't help people have the American dream. Help people. One more thing, the Fairness Act. The Fairness Act should be passed because the reason why is not because what it is people should be who they are. And if you don't allow people to be who they are, it's kind of wrong. You're taking their freedom away, and that's not right. You know, what you need to do is allow the Fairness Act to pass because it's the right thing to do. And if you don't believe in it, why don't you do a study on being gay? Because this is what it is. If people are born gay, you know, and that's the question we need to do. We need to do a study on that. That's it.
Anyone else?
Hi, I wanted to thank you all so much for listening to those of us who love Reservoir Hill Park. My name is Alicia Carmichael. I live at 919 Cherry Drive, which is in the Old Fort neighborhood adjacent to the park. And I wanted to make sure that I'm right in thinking that this won't be tabled for the future, or is the issue dead, or is it coming back?
Haven't heard.
Haven't heard. Okay. Well, I'd like to encourage you not to, for all the reasons that they've been writing about in the daily news. And I'll just run through a few of those. One that's very important to me is I have a 13-year-old child. The lower portion is where he can walk safely without going up to the bigger portion, and also where he can enjoy all the wonderful sledding. The kids go down there and make, you know, snowmen and so forth. And then, of course, the historical aspect. Union Colonel Benjamin Harrison was a commander there during the Civil War before he was president, so that's fascinating that that part of the park has that tie-in. Also, you know, there's so many homeowners who've bought homes there along, adjacent to that portion of the park, who feel like they were always going to get to look at that part of the park with an open vista, and if the homes are built there, they'll be looking at the back of other homes. My home is not there, but I certainly sympathize with those folks. But so many people love that area, and it's been nice for me to be able to meet with Sierra Club and some other people who've really enjoyed it, not just those who live there. So there are lots of reasons. The lower portion of the park is great, and I hope you'll continue to think about whether or not to sell that. And I'm hoping that when you all hear what everybody has to say, you'll designate that lower portion of the park as parkland in perpetuity. So please consider that, and thank you so much for not making a hasty decision. It feels really great to be heard. Thanks.
Else? Seeing no one else, we'll ask you to clear the chambers so we can go into closed session. Thank you so much for tuning in. Did I miss one? Brent? All right, we'll return to open session with our closed session. I will make the motion to add Municipal Order 2017-139 to the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by me, second by Perigin. Any discussion about adding it to the agenda? Please call the roll.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. And now consideration of Municipal Order 2017-139.
Municipal order approving the retention of Keating, Muethling, and Klipkamp PLLC, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, to investigate and to file civil actions, if appropriate, related to Block 6 RAP in the WKU Gateway to Downtown Bowling Green Development Area, approving and authorizing the execution of the engagement letter related to this transaction, and approving the waiver of the maximum outside legal counsel fees as established by the City Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Perigin, second by Williams. Is there any discussion on the municipal order? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Nash?
Yes.
Perigin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you for tuning.